Welcome to the Sleeping Archive, where history comes alive through the voices of those who lived it.
My name is Élise Dufour, and I have lived within the walls of Versailles for 7 years. When I first arrived, the palace overwhelmed me. I remember the ache in my neck from looking up, ceilings that seemed to scrape the sky, mirrors so tall they reflected entire corridors into eternity. That awe fades eventually, replaced by something more subtle, a constant awareness that you are being watched, measured and weighed against gold. Today feels like so many others, and yet it does not. I wake early. The stars are still above the gardens, faint and fading. My chamber is narrow, the air cool. I light a small taper and dress slowly. The silk is cool against my skin, the corset tighter than usual. Perhaps I've grown careless with pastries, though I suspect the laundress has used hot water again. Outside my window, the trees stand in perfect lines. Their stillness reminds me of the days I used to run barefoot through my grandfather's orchard. That feels like another life. Here, nature is trimmed into submission. Nothing is wild. Nothing is permitted to grow as it wishes. My mornings begin in silence. I brush my hair, pin it back, smooth the front of my dress. Each movement is deliberate, shaped by repetition and necessity. My mother once said that dignity begins with posture. I have carried that with me longer than anything else. I leave my chamber quietly. The corridor smells of wax and old perfume. Far below, I hear the kitchens come to life. Iron pots, clattering wood, a muffled bark of command. The palace wakes in layers. If you stand still, you can hear the hum of it. Distant voices, creaking floors, the occasional ring of a bell. Outside the Queen's chambers, Madame de Polignac is already waiting. She nods to me, a slight gesture, one part acknowledgement, one part command. Her eyes are sharp despite the hour, her gown immaculate. She never arrives unprepared. We wait. That is often our role, to wait, to stand, to listen. Time moves differently inside the palace. It loops and folds in on itself like ribbon. No one rushes here. Even urgency is choreographed. The doors open. The Queen lies in bed, one arm above the coverlet, her hair unbound across her pillow. Her face is turned to the window where pale dawn is beginning to filter through silk drapes. There is a stillness to her that always surprises me. She looks young in sleep, almost untouched by the weight of her crown. We begin the morning ritual. She opens her eyes. Madame de Polignac steps forward with the mirror. The Queen examines her reflection and nods once. The ritual begins in earnest. Linens removed, fresh garments presented, the first layer of silk drawn carefully over her shoulders. Her Majesty's voice is soft. "Élise, what do you see from your window this morning? This is our ritual." "A single swan on the canal," I say. The mist follows it like a veil. And a gardener trimming rose vines near the fountain, he sings to himself. She smiles. A real smile. "You always notice the small things." "They are the ones that matter," I say. Her gown today is soft blue, embroidered with tiny silver fleurs-de-lis. Leonard, the hairdresser, arrives to begin the elaborate styling that will rise above her like a crown. Today's arrangement includes pearls, delicate ribbons, and a thin silver comb shaped like olive branches. "Peace," he says as he sets it into place. The Queen does not reply. As we work, she hums quietly, a tune I do not recognize. Something simple, perhaps from her childhood. It drifts in the air between us, too fragile to capture. After dressing, we accompany her to her private breakfast. The fire crackles in the hearth. Chocolate is poured into a porcelain cup from Sèvres, the same set she's used for 3 years. The Queen dips a piece of brioche, her fingers delicate against the rim.
Dear Clémence, I am writing quickly, before morning duties begin. The candles are still low and I can hear Marie-Claire snoring beside me. She sleeps like a bear, always has. Things here are strange. Not loud strange, not broken strange, more like quiet strange, like the stillness before a storm. You remember how our mother used to say that? That the worst weather comes when even the birds go silent? Well, the palace feels like that. The queen still smiles in the mornings, still wears her gowns like she's the only one allowed to breathe, but her eyes look farther away than they used to, like she's staring past the walls. Yesterday I heard the undercook say that a man in the village refused to bow to the passing carriage, said he wouldn't lower himself for those who made him hungry. The guards said nothing, they just let it pass. That would never have happened last year. There are more leaflets now. Hidden in pockets, slipped behind benches, they say horrible things about Her Majesty. Lies mostly. Or maybe truths I don't want to believe. Last night I saw Élise, the one who serves closest to the Queen, walking alone in the gardens. No fan, no parasol, just walking. She never used to do that. She looked like someone who'd forgotten how to sleep. Please write soon, even just a joke or two. The palace is beautiful, but beauty doesn't warm your bones. And sometimes when no one's looking, I wonder if it's all just a very expensive trap. Your sister, Margot.
After our morning walk, Her Majesty retires briefly while the rest of us scatter to our mid-morning duties. I return to my chamber, remove my shoes, and sit at my writing desk. The light through the window has warmed, catching the gilt edges of my mirror. I do not write today, I only sit watching the way the dust dances in the sunbeams. The day stretches ahead of us, as all days do here, perfectly structured, elegantly choreographed, a waltz composed in centuries past. I rejoin the Queen as she prepares for her audiences. Her demeanour has shifted slightly since morning, not colder, but more distant. She has withdrawn behind the mask of monarchy, the one she wears so well. Her voice is smooth now, her gaze direct. We pass through the Salon de la Paix, soft, golden, still, on our way to the audience chamber. A footman nods as we go. The Queen does not acknowledge him, not from arrogance, but from habit. There are too many faces, too many names. She cannot hold them all. The first petitioner is a noblewoman from Picardy. She presents a letter requesting the reinstatement of her son's military commission. He was accused of cowardice, though she insisted was illness. The Queen listens politely, asks 2 questions, nods. The matter will be reviewed. Next comes a merchant from Lyon bearing samples of silk, deep crimson, spun so finely the fabric clings to the air itself. He speaks of trade disruptions, of delays from the ports. The Queen fingers the cloth but makes no promises. There is a bishop, a widow, a playwright. All follow the same arc. Bow, speak, plead, depart. Behind her chair, I whisper names and present summaries. My voice is quiet, practiced. I am not meant to be noticed. The audience chamber is ornate. Marble columns, painted ceilings, gilded moldings. But the real drama is in the faces. Some eyes shine with hope. Others glitter with desperation. One man, a former court clerk, bows so low his voice nearly vanishes. He clutches a scroll of petitions in his shaking hands. As he leaves, I see tears in his eyes. He will not return. Later, I ask the chamberlain about him. Dismissed after the bankruptcy in Rouen, he says, he has nothing left but ink and hope. The Queen speaks little during the final interviews. Her gaze drifts often toward the windows. Beyond them, the sky is bright, but something in her carriage suggests a woman under siege. After the final audience, we walk toward her private salon. As we pass the hall of battles, we hear the clatter of boots. A pair of guards are arguing quietly, too quiet for clarity, but loud enough to be felt. The Queen does not pause. In her salon, lunch is served. Cold pigeon with orange, fish glazed in wine, tartlets with rhubarb. The table is set for 6. Today we are joined by Madame de Lamballe and the Comte de Provence. The conversation begins lightly. The new opera opening in Paris, a shipment of gloves from Spain, but it veers gently into other waters. I've heard the protests at the grain markets continue, the Comte says. The price per bushel is unsustainable. The Queen does not look up from her soup. It is spring. Protests rise with the flowers. They wilt just as quickly. No one responds. The silence is brief but heavy. Madame de Lamballe changes the subject to court dresses. I count the seconds before the Queen responds. She speaks of her children next. The Dauphin's Latin tutor, Madame Royale's harpsichord practice. Her voice grows lighter, more animated. She laughs, remembering Louis Charles hiding under the table to avoid his grammar exercises. For a time, the mood softens. We are no longer courtiers and monarchs, just women in conversation. But it never lasts long. After lunch, we walk again. The sky has turned. Clouds now gather at the edges of the gardens. A wind moves the trees. The Queen pauses beneath an elm. Do you feel it, Élise? The wind, Your Majesty. No, she says. Something else, as though the palace is listening. I do not reply. We return through the hall of mirrors. The glass reflects our figures over and over again. The Queen, flanked by attendants, surrounded by opulence. I watch her expression in the reflections. In some mirrors, she looks tired. In others, distant. That evening, I am permitted to leave the palace briefly. I visit the village. My old nurse, Madame Briand, keeps a small room near the baker's. She is slower now, her back stooped, her hands twisted, but her eyes remain sharp. The bread's gone up again, she says as we sit near the fire. 3 sous more this week. There's talk of grain convoys held at bay. Rumours say it's the nobles, stockpiling. Rumours say many things, I reply. Yes, but some of them are true. She offers me tea, strong, bitter, comforting. We speak of simpler times, of her son in Marseille, of the spring flowers returning. Outside, the baker's wife kneads dough with furious rhythm. Her sleeves are rolled, her brow damp. As I pass, she mutters something under her breath. They will eat until they choke, and we will burn before they notice. I say nothing. I return to the palace in silence. As I enter through the side corridor, I see one of the guards glance down at a small leaflet folded in his pocket. He notices me, folds it deeper. I climb the stairs slowly. Something is coming. I do not yet know its name, but I feel it in my bones. Evening settles over Versailles with a kind of solemn grace. The royal table is long tonight, stretched for ceremony, though the Queen has invited only a dozen guests. The gilded ceiling reflects the candlelight as though the room were dipped in honey. But Marie Antoinette barely touches her food. She nods politely. She listens. Her mind is running ahead of the table. The Comte d'Artois is present tonight, the king's younger brother, ever eager to seize the moment with laughter and commentary. He speaks of unrest in Lyon and whispers of armed resistance in the countryside. The Queen does not interrupt him, but her hands curl in her lap. Across from her, the Duchess of Polignac gives a slight shake of the head, a glance meant only for her. The table is heavy with unspoken things. After dinner, the court assembles in the Hall of Mirrors. There is music, always music, and polished smiles, and the clatter of embroidered shoes on the marble. Marie Antoinette smiles, dances, nods. She laughs as expected, but she seems to float above it, barely brushing the surface, as if the music allows her to leave the room without standing up. Then I see the footman. He is careful, but I catch the exchange. A folded note slipped from sleeve to hand, with only the briefest of bows. The Queen's eyes flick downward, then up. The Duchess sees it too. No one speaks. But something has happened, something urgent. A question she's been afraid to ask has finally answered itself. Afterward, in the corridor outside her rooms, the Queen does not speak. She lets the attendants unlace her gown, remove her jewels, rub her temples with scented oil. She is not looking at them, not looking at me. Her skin is pale, her arms thinner than they once were. She moves slowly tonight. After she is in bed, I walk back through the silent palace. The hall of mirrors is empty now, the candles still lit, the music long gone. I stop beside a window. Below me, a single carriage pulls away from the servants' gate. No crest, no torch, only shadows. But I know who it carries. The walls remember. The wind carries it. By the time I return to my chamber, night has swallowed the palace. The corridors are lit only by torches and the occasional flicker of candlelight escaping under a door. The air is dense with silence, not peaceful but expectant. I move through the hallway slowly, my slippers brushing against the stone. I pass tapestries of ancient battles and saints, their woven eyes staring blindly into the dark. Back in my room, I light a small candle and begin my nightly routine. I loosen my bodice, unpin my hair. I wash my face at the basin, the water chill against my cheeks. There is comfort in the repetition, but it is thinner tonight. My hands shake. I sit at my desk and open my journal. I stare at the blank page. Nothing comes. A knock startles me. Soft, hesitant. I cross the room and open the door to find Marie Claire, one of the younger maids, her eyes wide and glassy. She clutches a shawl tightly around her shoulders. "There are soldiers in the lower gallery," she whispers. "Not the regular guards. National Guard, just arrived." I blink. "How many?" "Dozens. They're not speaking, just standing." We descend together, staying to the edge of the corridor. In the courtyard below, shadowed figures stand shoulder to shoulder, rifles slung, uniforms dulled by dust. Some have the look of veterans, others are no older than boys. No one speaks. Back in the Queen's wing, we find the others already gathered, Madame de Polignac, Madame de Lamballe, and 2 silent footmen. The Queen is seated at her vanity. She is not surprised. "How long?" she asks. "An hour at most," someone replies. "They came quietly." The Queen nods once. "So it begins." She gestures for her nightrobe. I retrieve it. The fabric slides over her shoulders with the faintest whisper. Her skin is pale beneath the candlelight, almost translucent. Madame de Lamballe brings rosewater. The Queen does not touch it. She sits at her dressing table and stares into the mirror. We say nothing. None of us move. She speaks, at last. "I had another dream." We wait. "I was in a bakery, alone. I kneaded dough with bare hands, and there was flour in my hair. My children laughed. Louis smiled. The oven glowed, and I sang. I have never sung in real life, not freely." She closes her eyes. When I woke, the warmth was still in my hands. We help her into bed. The sheets are freshly warmed with bricks from the fireplace. Her hands lie still upon the coverlet. "They will come, won't they?" she asks softly. No one answers. "I will not run," she says. "I was not raised to flee." The others depart slowly, leaving me to place her prayer book by the bedside, to draw the curtains partially closed. She watches me in the mirror. "Do you believe in signs, Élise?" I hesitate. "Sometimes." She nods faintly. "So do I. I think Versailles has stopped protecting us." I leave her chamber and walk the length of the Queen's wing. Outside one window I see the faint glow of torches. A soldier smokes beside a cart of supplies. Another sharpens a blade slowly, methodically, as if out of boredom. The palace does not feel asleep. It feels paused. Back in my chamber, I pull the covers over me, fully clothed. I stare at the ceiling, where shadows stretch and bend in the torchlight. I imagine the court dissolved, the gold leaf scraped from mirrors, the silk burned for warmth. Somewhere, an owl calls once. A hound barks in reply, then silence. The floorboards above groan, a creak near the stairs. Every sound feels larger than it should. I rise before dawn. The palace begins to stir. I hear fires being lit, buckets sloshing, heels clicking down marble. The rhythm resumes, but fainter. At the window, the garden stretched silent and grey beneath the mist. Just beyond the gates, the National Guard remains, motionless, faceless. They stand like statues at the end of a dream. I spot a girl with them, young, no older than Madame Royale. She wears a red cap and carries a wooden pail. Her eyes are unreadable. She looks directly at me. I step back from the window. Versailles is not invincible. I sit at my desk again and write. Last night we waited. We did not speak of escape. We did not pray aloud. We waited, and the Queen did not cry. The guards do not need to breach the gates. The gates are already open.
You ever been this close before?
To royalty? No.
She doesn't look like I imagined.
What did you think? That she'd glow?
I thought she'd be taller.
They always do from a distance. Do you think she knows?
Knows what?
That we're not here for her protection.
She knows.
Then why doesn't she run?
Where would she go? They say the baker in Paris was arrested yesterday for speaking too loud.
For saying what?
That the king eats while we tighten our belts.
It's not wrong. Did you hear that?
What?
Upstairs. Movement.
She's awake.
Wouldn't you be? Do you think it'll happen here?
It always starts with a whisper, then a rumor, then someone lights a torch.
Do we hold the line?
We wait. That's the order.
And when the order changes?
Then God help us all.
The bells ring just after sunrise. Not the great bells of the chapel, but a smaller one, sharp, high, and immediate. A servant's signal, we are summoned. I move quickly through the corridors. Others are already gathering. Pages, footmen, kitchen girls. A strange silence binds us. No one speaks above a whisper. Outside the Queen's antechamber, Madame de Polignac stands pale and alert. She nods to me without words. Her eyes shine, but not with tears, with warning. The Queen has already dressed. She stands in the center of the room, wrapped in a traveling gown of deep grey. No powder in her hair, no diamonds, just a single silver pin at her collar. The Dauphin clutches her hand, his cheeks blotchy from crying. Madame Royale stands beside him, composed beyond her years. The king is not yet here. I approach the Queen. Majesty, may I... She turns to me. Élise, thank you for everything. There is no time for more. The chamber doors open, and a man in uniform steps inside. Your Majesty, he says with a bow. The coach is ready, and that is how it ends. Not with shouts, not with torches, but with courtiers frozen in place, watching as their queen walks away. We do not know where they are going. We do not know if they will return. The halls feel different after. The air thin, unsettled. The chandeliers do not glimmer. The tapestries seem dull. The palace has lost its center. I wander through the salons in a daze. I sit on a bench in the corridor near the library and fold my hands in my lap. At some point, I realize I am not alone. Marie-Claire, the young maid, sits beside me, her eyes red. She speaks first. Do you think they'll tear it down? The palace, she nods. I think of the hall of mirrors, the painted ceilings, the fountains that leap on command. No, I say, but they will not see it the same way again. We sit in silence a long while. That night I return to my chamber and light a single candle. I remove my gown not out of habit but because I must. It feels strange now, absurd even. I wear my nightdress and sit at the window, legs curled beneath me. From here I can see the outer wall. Beyond it, the road to Paris, and beyond that, everything we tried to keep out. I think of the baker's wife, of my mother, of a time before silk and silence. The Queen once asked if the people still loved her. She asked too late, but love is not the same as memory, and I will remember her. In the morning I will rise. I will walk through rooms that no longer belong to anyone. I will sweep ashes from the hearth and light fires for no one. I will wait, I will listen, and I will begin again. That evening, the halls echo differently. There is a hollow to the steps of the guards. The fireplaces burn smaller. The laughter of courtiers has vanished. replaced by silence and the rustle of skirts. The Dauphin's tutor does not arrive. His books remain in the study untouched. The Queen's embroidery basket sits idle by the window. A spool of blue thread has unravelled across the cushion. Later I visit the chapel alone. The pews are empty. The candles flicker low. I kneel not to pray, but to feel the wood beneath my knees, something solid, something real. A small book lies forgotten on the altar, Psalm 126. I open it and read the first line aloud. They that sow in tears shall reap in joy. It echoes in the vast chamber. It has been 43 days since the Queen left Versailles. The rooms are still here, the mirrors still reflect. The gardens are still trimmed each morning by men who do not speak. But the court is gone. Some fled in the days after the royal departure. Others lingered longer, pretending to wait for news. But soon even they vanished, fading like perfume in an open room. Now it is only us, the ones who stayed. The cooks, the seamstresses, the boys who sweep the chimneys, a priest who speaks to no one, and me. I walk the halls each morning just as I always did. I straighten chairs in rooms no longer used. I check for dust beneath draperies. I open windows that no one passes. At first it felt like haunting a house where no one had died. But lately, it feels like I am the one who passed through. The Queen writes. Her letters arrive once every 2 weeks. They are polite, brief, always signed the same way, Marie. She does not ask how things are here. I think she cannot bear to know. In her absence, the palace has changed tone. Where once the air was thick with perfume and debate, now it is honest, quiet, clean. Software. Sometimes I sit in her old chair by the window and read. The sunlight still falls in the same angle across the floor. The birds still gather near the orange trees. Time has not stopped, only rearranged. One afternoon I climbed to the attic archive. The door sticks as it always did. The air is dry and smells of parchment. Inside are boxes of old letters, menus, ledgers, sketches. I find my name once, a list of attendants with notes in the margin, quiet, reliable, observant. I am not proud, but I am still here. The palace breathes more softly now. It no longer pretends to rule. It simply waits. At night, I sleep near the fire. I no longer wear silk. I sew linen. I keep a small garden beyond the west wall, potatoes, spinach, mint, and I write, this account, what I have given you, is not for the Queen, not for the nobles, not for those who come after to judge. It is for the silence, because the silence is where truth lives.
You've been listening to The Sleeping Archive. Sleep well. History will wait.